Huh? I didn't book a flight for you, Mom. It's only natural, right? This is a family trip, after all. Old lady, go back and clean the house. If the house is dirty when we return, I will really kick you out of the family next time.
I was stunned by Maria's words. I had been looking forward to this trip and came to the airport, only to find out that my flight wasn't booked, and I couldn't go. Up until now, I had endured all the unreasonable things Maria had done because we were family. I forgave Maria because we were family. But to think it would come to this, even I was amazed at myself. I was the only one who thought of us as family. Maria had clearly said that I wasn't family. Then I should act towards her as if she weren't family either. I'll clean thoroughly, just as she asked. Having decided that, I turned on my heel. My name is Kim Smith, a 64-year-old housewife. I live with my husband, Robert. We have one son, and our eldest son, Tom, got married and started his own family a few years ago.
I want to marry this woman.
He introduced Maria to us. They were colleagues at work and had supported each other since joining the company, sometimes as rivals. Eventually, Maria became an indispensable presence for Tom, and he decided to marry her. When I first met Maria, she was a responsible woman with a charming smile. As a mother, I felt I could entrust Tom to her. I thought a new happy life would begin. Our eldest son and his wife lived with us. Tom, worried about our old age, had suggested we live together. But that was the beginning of the tragedy. One day, I was having coffee with Maria. I served some cakes given by a friend and made coffee while chatting with Maria, but she seemed dissatisfied throughout.
These cakes are not very good. Are you in your right mind, mother-in-law, to serve me something like this?
Surprised by Maria's words, I tasted the cakes myself. I found them to be quite delicious. They were from a popular cake shop where people lined up. My friend had stood in line to buy them for me, so there was no way they could be bad. I'm sorry if they weren't to your taste. But these cakes are from a popular cake shop that always has a long line. My friend lined up to buy them for me, so I don't think they're bad. Since I found them delicious, I couldn't understand why Maria said they weren't good. The cakes went well with coffee, had a light texture, and were easy to eat. Feeling indignant, I retorted to Maria.
Mother-in-law, are you defying me? You have some nerve. Who is the one being allowed to live with whom here? I could report to Tom that you're bullying me, you know.
I had no intention of bullying her. I just stated the facts. But Maria threatened to report that I was bullying her. Normally, I would have been able to clearly tell her that such threats were wrong. But what if Tom believed Maria's words? What if he took her lies about me bullying her seriously? That thought frightened me, and I couldn't say anything more. When I stopped speaking, Maria seemed pleased and didn't say anything more harsh, enjoying her coffee. Before I knew it, Maria had eaten more cakes than I had. I thought to myself that, despite saying it wasn't very good, she had eaten quite a lot. By this point, the gears between us were already off. I should have reported Maria's harsh words to Tom or Robert and relied on them. If I had done so, the terrible outcome could have been avoided. But I was too cowardly, afraid of breaking the family bond. Even though I knew it would lead to a terrible result, I did nothing and couldn't even think of doing anything. Maria's outrageous behavior didn't stop there. One day, she dressed up and was about to go out. That itself was not something to be particularly concerned about, but there were still household chores to be done.
I'm going to have tea with a friend now, so you, Mom, do your best with the chores alone.
At her words, I widened my eyes. We had established rules about household chores. They were to be divided between Maria and me, as I was a housewife. Maria was about to break those rules. Isn't that against the rules? We agreed you would do your share of the chores. When I stood up to her, Maria puffed her cheeks in dissatisfaction and said something even more outrageous.
Don't ruin my mood when I'm about to do something fun. But yes, today's chores are not done at all. I was supposed to clean today, but could you do it for me, Mom? Make sure to finish it all by the time I come back in the evening. If it's not done, you won't get away with it.
It was already past noon. Yet I had to clean the entire house from now on? There was no way I could finish by evening. That's impossible. There's no way I can finish all of it by evening. I told her clearly since it was impossible no matter how I looked at it.
Are you a mother or not? Isn't it a mother-in-law's job to fulfill the daughter-in-law's whims? Doing the chores on my behalf is also part of your job as a mother-in-law. So, do your best.
She said that and left the house. I worked hard all day that day. Apparently, Maria had been neglecting the cleaning for several days, so it was quite a task. Finishing by evening was difficult, but I worked frantically and managed to finish just before Maria returned. Maria seemed dissatisfied about it, but I was just relieved to have completed it. I had always tried to get along with Maria, making efforts upon efforts. I endured the unreasonable demands and somehow overcame them. Perhaps recognizing that, our son and his wife invited us on a trip. Apparently, it was a trip planned by Maria, suggesting we spend about 2 weeks in Australia.
I wanted to have a family trip after a long time. We'll cover the costs, so how about it?
Hearing her words, I felt saved, thinking she finally appreciated my efforts so far. We readily agreed to the trip and prepared to leave Australia. On the day of the trip, we went to the airport with our son and his wife. After confirming the boarding gate for our flight, we had a moment to catch our breath, so we talked again with our son and his wife. Thank you for today. Let's enjoy the trip. I spoke to them, excitement making my cheeks relax. I was, of course, happy about going abroad, but more than that, I was happy that Maria had planned this trip. It was sure to be a great trip. Maria suddenly snickered at me. Did I say something funny? As I tilted my head in wonder, Maria said something shocking.
Huh? I didn't book a flight for you, Mom. It's only natural, right? This is a family trip, after all. Old lady, go back and clean the house. If the house is dirty when we return, I will really kick you out of the family next time.
I widened my eyes at her words. Even though we were family, she hadn't booked my flight? Wasn't this trip supposed to be a family trip? No, Maria had excluded me from the family. Just because she found me bothersome or considered me a nuisance. The feeling of unforgiveness welled up in me. So I decided to play a little trick on Maria. Understood. Then I'll go back. I'll make sure to clean the house thoroughly, so don't worry. I said that firmly to Maria. Seeing the frozen air between us, Tom and Robert looked somewhat flustered. I had endured it alone without telling anyone until now, but that ends today. Following Maria's words, I turned on my heel and left the airport. But I hadn't given up on everything. I had a plan. I went home to execute that plan. As soon as I got home, I started cleaning, just as Maria had told me. But it wasn't the usual kind of cleaning. It was a thorough one. On that day, I had made all the necessary arrangements. First, I reserved a weekly rental apartment. Then I called movers and moved all the furniture to the reserved apartment. After that, I cleaned the house thoroughly. I vacuumed, wiped with a cloth, and even re-waxed the floors. If I was going to clean, it would be thorough, to the point of leaving no trace. Finally finishing the cleaning, I left the house and moved into the weekly rental apartment. The next day, I went to a real estate agent. I decided to demolish the house and sell just the land. I completed the necessary procedures. It seemed it would take about a week to demolish the house. Since Maria and the others would return in 2 weeks, there was no problem. While living in the weekly rental apartment, I waited for the house to be demolished. A week later, I received a call informing me that the house had been successfully demolished, so I went to see the site. The house was completely demolished, with nothing left behind. There wasn't even a shadow of the house remaining. Though I felt a tinge of sadness, satisfaction overwhelmingly prevailed. The stage was set for my revenge. All that was left was to see how Maria would react to the current state of things. While looking for a new house during the remaining week before they returned, I waited for the 3 to come back. Another week later, the day finally came when Maria and the others returned. By then, I had already found a potential new house, and I was at the stage of discussing it with Robert. As I was relaxing at the apartment, my phone rang loudly. I could easily guess who it was from, but just in case, I checked, and it was Maria. Hello? What happened? Honestly, dealing with her was a hassle, but my revenge wasn't over yet, and I was curious about her reaction to the devastated house, so I decided to answer the phone. Maria screamed in a panicked, accusatory tone.
What do you mean? What happened? Where are you right now? The house is a disaster. Get here quickly.
It seemed that Maria and the others had already arrived home. They must have seen the demolished state and were calling to confirm what was going on. I was just cleaning, like you asked. What's so disastrous about it? Did I do something wrong? I just cleaned, as I was told. I was threatened with consequences if the house wasn't clean, so I made sure it wasn't dirty at all, cleaning it to the point of leaving no trace. It was outrageous to be scolded for that.
Sure, I said to clean, but I didn't tell you to go this far. Are you out of your mind? Everything's gone. We can't even live here like this.
Indeed, you can't live there in that state. After all, there's absolutely nothing. Just a bare piece of land. And that land is already up for sale at the real estate agent, so it's not ours anymore. Well, you could just buy the land and build a new house. Though I doubt you two, who couldn't live without our support, could afford to buy the land and build a house. Actually, the reason we were living together wasn't just that we were worried about our old age or anything like that. The truth is, our elder son and his wife were struggling financially. Tom's salary was minimal, which led to their financial difficulties. It was all due to the recession. Tom used to get a reasonable salary until Maria left her job after marriage. However, the economic downturn and other issues led to a significant pay cut. With his reduced salary, it became challenging to sustain themselves. Tom had tried to ask Maria to work several times, but Maria refused each time, saying, "Being a housewife was my dream." In such a situation, Tom had no one to rely on but me. Upon hearing this, I immediately decided we should live together. Since I was paying the $2,100 monthly mortgage for our house, living together would reduce their financial burden, and I had enough money, so I didn't plan to charge them for living expenses. We would support them entirely while they worked on getting back on their feet. That was the main reason for living together.
I had no idea. I thought you were just living on a pension.
Certainly, ordinary people wouldn't be able to do something like this. Paying $2,100 monthly is quite a sum. And it's not just that. We were also covering all the living expenses for our son and his wife. The total amount must have been substantial. But I was able to do it. Why? Because, actually, my family has been chairing that famous international corporate group for generations. My nephew has taken over now, but last year, my father passed away and left a considerable inheritance. So, money isn't an issue for us. Yes, in fact, my family has been leading a well-known international corporate group for generations. In other words, we're a family of wealthy business owners. I was born into a family with a considerable fortune, and last year, I inherited an enormous amount of assets from my late father, an amount so large that I could never spend it all in my lifetime.
That's not fair. Why didn't you tell me? We're family, aren't we?
Maria shouted in panic upon hearing I was the daughter of a wealthy family. Why didn't I tell her? Because we weren't family. She had belittled me numerous times, but as soon as she found out about my status, she turned on a dime, changing her attitude. Too selfish and utterly annoying. Well, that's beside the point. More importantly, I want to take Robert and Tom with me. Could you stay there for a while? I'll come to pick them up. Although I did harbor resentment towards Maria, I felt sympathy for Tom and Robert, who were suddenly thrust into this situation without any prior consultation. They deserved the right to live with me, at least. Their intentions would come first. Of course, but I had to confirm that. I hung up the phone and drove to the former house site. Upon arriving, I found Maria and the others standing there as if they had obeyed my words. When I called out, "Sorry to keep you waiting," Maria rushed over with a desperate expression and collapsed at my feet.
Please. Please forgive me. I understand now that you're a significant person. Let's continue together from now on, right? After all, we're family, aren't we? Isn't it a bit harsh to abandon us over this?
Who said we weren't family first? Who excluded me, saying I wasn't family? Now, turning around and using the term family to save herself is revolting. Weren't we not family? That's why you didn't book my flight, wasn't it? Because I'm not family, you didn't take me on the trip. Maria said it clearly at that time at the airport. That's why she didn't book the flight. That's why she excluded me from the trip. Now turning around and saying we're family is too sly.
That was. But it was just a prank, wasn't it? Isn't it a bit narrow-minded to take it seriously? I wasn't being serious.
Just a prank? Something like that? When they suggested a family trip, I felt genuinely saved. I was willing to forgive all the horrible things Maria had done up to that point. Yet she betrayed those feelings. Maria herself betrayed me. I couldn't dismiss it as just a prank. Sorry, Maria, but I can't forgive you. No matter how many times you apologize, or even if it was a prank, I can't. So, give up. I said it clearly. I've already reached my limit. I tried my best to get along with Maria and live together as a family. I tried to accept Maria. But she betrayed me. She clearly said at the airport that we weren't family. No matter how hard I tried, it was all in vain. Even if I recognized Maria as family, Maria herself didn't recognize me as family. It was a harsh reality. It was a fact I wanted to turn away from, but I couldn't run away. My heart couldn't bear it any longer. I've tried my best so far. I've tried to live together as a family and accept Maria. But I can't do it anymore. So, give up. I declared firmly. Hearing that, Maria dropped her shoulders and collapsed on the spot. Tom, looking concerned, called out, "Maria." But she didn't respond. Honestly, it might be bothersome to the neighbors, but I had no intention of dealing with Maria any further, so I decided to leave her there. After confirming with Robert and Tom, both said they wanted to come with me. So, I put them in the car and was about to head to the weekly rental apartment when Maria, who had been stunned until then, rushed over with a horrified expression.
Please. Don't abandon me. I can't do it without you, Mom. If you leave me here like this.
She clung to me desperately. Even after hearing that, my decision was already made, and I had no intention of taking Maria along. Sorry, but give up. I only want to live with Robert and Tom. It would be strange to live together with someone who's not family, right? Supporting or living together with someone who's not family is an odd story. I have no reason to continue supporting Maria anymore. Leaving Maria behind, I drove off. Maria kept crying all the while. But it was a situation she brought upon herself, so there's nothing I could do about it. After that, our eldest son and his wife divorced. Tom filed for divorce, but as expected, Maria resisted and refused to divorce. However, when Tom hired a lawyer and proceeded with divorce mediation, it was revealed that Maria had been misusing the household money, leading to a smooth divorce. Of course, Maria was sued for using up the household money. Although it was found that Maria had no ability to pay, Tom had no intention of forgiving her and filed the lawsuit. After that, Maria tried to return to her parents' house, but Tom had already contacted them, and they were furious at her outrageous behavior. Maria was kicked out of her family home. Now, she's living alone with no one to rely on, working day and night to pay off the compensation she owes. Meanwhile, the three of us are living a happy life. We discussed and moved to a new house and are now living a leisurely life. At one point, things escalated so much with Maria that I wondered what would happen. I still hold some resentment about not being able to go on the family trip. In response, Tom planned another trip to Australia for us. Since I still have good health, I want to travel a lot while I can. I'm so grateful to Tom for understanding my wishes. Going forward, I want to do my best to support Tom in getting back on his feet. How did you like today's story? Please subscribe to the channel as well. See you in the next video.